In this video, we're gonna take our existing scenario that we built out on the last video, and we're going to expand upon it. We're going to build it out even further. And I'm gonna show you guys how to set up routers, filters, and scheduling. Let's get into it. So back here in make.com, in our first scenario that we just built out, we've got the weather app and the Google Sheets app. We've got the weather module, we're getting the current weather, and we're adding that to our Google Sheets. Let's talk about routers in make.com. Routers are super handy because they basically allow you to split your workflow into different paths so that you can handle multiple scenarios in one go. It just keeps things organized and makes your automations more efficient. There's several ways you can add a router. You can right click in any empty space, add a module, and then you can search router, and the router is underneath the flow control. So we can just click router right there and it will automatically connect to our scenario. Or we can click the plus icon from our last module and do the exact same thing. Type in router and find the router, boom. Or on the bottom row, we can find the flow control, click that, and then add a router, and it will add a router into just blank space on the canvas. All we have to do is click and drag it to connect to our workflow. We can have many branches from this router, not just two. We click the router once to propagate 2 branches, and each additional branch that we want to come off of this router, we just click one more time. One, and now we've got 4. If you want to delete a branch, just right click on the module and click delete. Let's click the magic wand and just realign everything. First off, let's move this Google Sheets module over here onto the first branch. So in order to do that, you can't just click and drag because it will stay connected. What you'll have to do is unlink it first. So right in between these modules, just right click, click unlink, right click, unlink. Now it's free to move wherever, right? So all you have to do is just move it to this branch right here. And we're gonna go ahead and right click this empty module and click delete, and this connection will stay the same. So we have the same module connected just on the first branch. But the weather module is not connected to the router or the rest of the workflow. So we need to connect these two. Another reason why I love make.com, it's super easy. Just click and drag and boom, you've got the connection. Auto align and we're good. You'll notice that if we click into the Google Sheets module, all of our data mapping has stayed the same. The way that we have configured it before stayed the exact same. Whereas when this module is back here in between, if I had deleted this module and then added another Google Sheets add row module, a brand new one, I would have to reconfigure all of the data. Basically just reconfigure the new Google Sheets add rows module. In this situation, to start off, we want a router because not only do we want every time this weather application kicks on to go find out what the weather is in Salt Lake City, we want it to update our database, update our spreadsheet, but we also want to get a notification in our inbox, in our email. So let's set up a Gmail module right here, a Gmail send an email module where we're just gonna send an email to ourselves. So in order to do that, we're going to add Gmail, send an email, boom. Now we have to configure this module. So if you haven't added Gmail as a connection to make.com yet, you might not pull up this window initially. You might see a window that says add connection or something like that. You'll need to click that, sign into your Google Workspace account and grant permissions and follow the prompts to do so. It's really straightforward. Again, this is for if you have a paid Google Workspace plan. If you have just a regular free Gmail account, it's a lot more complex to set up with the Google Cloud Console, and that's super advanced. That's not for this course. We're not going to get into that. By the way, Google Workspace plans start at, I believe, $6 a month. So honestly, well worth your money for what you get. In the to field, we need to add a recipient. Since we're just sending an email to ourselves, we're going to click that and enter in our own email address. mason@automatewhat.com. Done. Now for the subject, let's just say daily weather of SLC, Salt Lake City. For the content, let's map out some data. This is going to be the body of the email. Hey Mason, the current weather for Salt Lake City is, and then we're going to list the following: temperature, wind, speed, status. The content is the body of the email. So let's just say something like, hey Mason, the current weather for Salt Lake City is temperature, wind speed, conditions, and air humidity. We need to map the data from the weather module. So right here for temperature, right next to it, we're just going to click into this text field, and then we're going to map in the temperature data point from the weather app. So over here, we're just going to find where the temperature is, temperature, wind speed. We're going to find the wind and the speed. So you'll notice right here, wind has a drop down arrow right here. It's because there's multiple data points nested underneath wind. So we're going to click the drop down, and underneath wind, we're going to find speed. This is wind speed. Conditions, I would imagine that's miles per hour. As for conditions, we're just going to map in the description right there. And then for the air humidity, we're going to map in the air humidity data point right there. We're going to click OK and run this once to see what happens. Always click save, and let's click run once and see what happens in real time. So you'll notice that the data split at this router and went down both paths. So it updated our Google Sheets and it also sent us an email. So you'll notice back here in Google Sheets, it added an additional row, and this is what the data looks like. And then if we go to our inbox, you'll see that we have a new email, and this is what the email looks like. Hey Mason, the current weather for Salt Lake City is temperature 29, wind speed 5.66, conditions scattered clouds, air humidity 31. It doesn't look super neat and clean, so I guess in this video I'm going to show you guys how to clean this up really quick and just throw this in there because I feel like it's not that advanced. So back here in make.com, let's go into the Gmail module, and I'm going to show you guys some basic HTML formatting to clean up this email. So even though right here in make.com it looks all nice and clean, you would think that it would follow this exact same format. Hey Mason, comma, return, line space. The current weather for Salt Lake City is return, line space, and then just all the temperatures, and then the temperature, return, wind speed, return, conditions, return. You would think so, right? But clearly, as you can see, it does not follow that pattern. So all you have to do for that is just this basic HTML element. It's just open caret, BR, close caret. That's it. That basically resembles hitting enter once on the keyboard. So if we have one of these elements, then it's going to hit enter once. But if we add a second one right here, that is 2 times I'm hitting enter on the keyboard. And we're going to do the same in between this line. It doesn't have to be in this space right here. It can be immediately after this. BR, close caret, open caret, BR, closed caret. Oops, BR, closed caret. And any additional lines like this in make.com, it doesn't matter. Maybe I'm getting a little too advanced, but honestly, I'm just throwing this in there because I think this is pretty straightforward. You'll see what the output looks like when we run this again. Now for the rest of the content in the email body, let's just do 1 line break in between each. So we're going to do that, BR, and I guess I can just copy, paste, paste, boom. I guess it doesn't even matter for that last one. So let's click OK and then hit save, and we're going to run this once, and I'm going to show you what it looks like now in my inbox. So if we come back here, this is what it looks like. Hey Mason, return, line space. The current weather for Salt Lake City is return, line space. It just looks a lot more clean. I guess that was just a bonus that I'm throwing into this video for you guys. And you can see that it added an additional row in our spreadsheet. So routers, it's really cool. What if we want to add a third route, right? What if we want to also get notified in our Slack channel? We're just going to click the router right here to add an additional branch, the third branch. We're going to click into this and add the Slack module. We're going to click the Slack application, right? Because the Slack app is this, and these are the modules in Slack. And we're going to type in message and see what options we have. It looks like we have a create a message right here. So we're going to click that. So we're just going to click into Slack. You guys probably don't have this set up already. It's fine. You can just watch the video. If you do, you can follow along with me. But you'll first need to add the connection to your Slack account. And again, I believe that this is pretty straightforward, where you just add the new connection, sign into Slack, grant permissions, and then you're back into this window where you can configure it. For the channel ID and list, I've just selected one of my channels, the general channel. And for the text, I'm just going to say this, SLC current temperature, and then list the temperature. Click OK. Let's save this, and then we're going to run once and see what it does. So back here in Slack, in my general thread, we can see that SLC current temperature is 29.17 degrees. I just wanted to show you that we can add more than 2 routes. Now let's set up some filters. Let's say that you only want to get notified in your inbox via email or Slack for that matter whenever temperatures exceed a certain limit, right? Let's say that you only want to get notified in the Slack channel whenever temperatures exceed 40 degrees Celsius because it's super hot. And you just want a friendly warning message like, hey, it's going to be super hot today. Make sure you don't forget your water bottle or something like that. I don't know. So you'll notice in between every single connection of a module is this little wrench icon. That is the icon we are going to click, and then we're going to set up a filter right here. We're going to label this filter really hot because it's really hot. And then for the condition, we are going to insert the temperature right here. And then because the temperature is a numeric value, we are going to scroll down to the numeric operators. Basically for the condition, what we're saying is whenever the temperature is greater than or equal to a certain number, right? So I'll show you what that means. So now that we're in the numeric operators, we're going to say greater than or equal to, and then we're going to set our number. So let's just say greater than or equal to 38. So again, just to show you what this means, This label is just whatever you want to name it. It doesn't matter. Don't worry about this yes or no right now. It's advanced. So for the condition, whenever the temperature, right, because this says temperature right here, but this is just a data point, right? It's going to pull in a number and give us a number. Whenever this temperature, the number, is greater than or equal to 38, travel down this route right here. Travel down the second route right here. We're going to click OK and click Save. And now you can see that this filter icon shows up because we currently have a filter set up for this second route. Now let's set up a filter for the third route. If you don't want to click the wrench icon, you can also right click on the branch itself and then do the same thing, set up a filter. We're going to name this one Deadly because we want to get notified in the Slack channel whenever the temperatures are just lethal. So again, for the condition, we're going to come down here to the text field in condition, and we're going to find the temperature data point from the weather app. And then text operators, we're going to change that to numeric operators. And then we're going to say greater than or equal to, we're just going to say 45. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but it's got to be like wicked hot. We're going to click OK. We're going to click save, and let's see what happens. We're going to run once, and as you can see, it only traveled down the first route right here where we don't have a filter set up. You'll want to remember this. If you don't have a filter set up on a branch, then the data is always going to travel down that branch, which is fine. That's what we want. Every time this scenario kicks on, we want to update our spreadsheet. So why didn't we get an email notification or Slack notification? You'll see as you click these filters right here, the little filter icons with the 0, you'll see that it did not meet the conditions that we have set. So the temperature was not greater than or equal to 38. It must have been lower. And if we go back to the weather module and see the data that was pulled, we can come over here to temperature, and that is exactly what happened. The temperature is only 26.99 degrees. Let's enter in a city that is more hot. So let's just do Las Vegas, Nevada. And we're going to save this and run once and see what happens. So you'll notice that it traveled down not only to update our Google Sheets module, but it also sent us an email because it must have met the parameters that we have set up in our filter, right? You'll see the green check mark because the temperature was 39.05 degrees. That meets our conditions that we have set up at greater than or equal to 38. But for the Slack channel, for this route right here, you'll see that it didn't meet the conditions because the temperature was 39.05, and we have it set to only notify us in the Slack channel, only travel down this route if this temperature, if this number exceeds or is equal to 45 degrees. So you'll see right here in the inbox, we have an email notification. Let's update the message in this Slack channel, by the way, because this is just like lethal temperatures. We want a warning. So let's update this field. Hey, it's really freaking hot outside, so make sure you're drinking plenty of water today. Current temperature, and then we list the temperature, and then we added just a capital C to signify that it is in Celsius. Click OK, click save. Let's update the city to some place that's extra hot. Okay, so because today I can't find any city on this planet that is exceeding those kind of temperatures above 42 degrees, which is extremely hot, we're gonna do the exact opposite and do extremely cold. So we're gonna keep this label the same, deadly, but we're going to change the number operator. So we're going to say, let's see, negative 25 degrees Celsius. And we're going to say for the numeric operator, less than or equal to. And if you don't want to scroll through the list and find your condition or operator, I should say, just type in less, and then we can find less than or equal to in the numeric operators. Click that. So less than or equal to negative 25 degrees. We're gonna click OK. And then we're gonna change our message just a little bit because it's not freaking hot, it's really freaking cold outside. So make sure that you stay inside. Hey, it's really freaking cold outside, so make sure you've got a coat or 2, maybe 3 to be safe. Current temperature, and then we list the temperature. Click OK. We're gonna click save. We updated the current weather to Antarctica, and we're going to run this once and see what it does. Run once, we can see it traveled up the first route to update our spreadsheet, and then it got stopped before it sent us an email because it did not meet those conditions that we have set up with our filter, but it did travel down the third route for Slack. And if we go into Slack, we'll see a message that says, hey, it's really freaking cold outside, so make sure you've got a coat or 2 or maybe 3 to be safe. Current temperature is negative 55 degrees Celsius. Pretty cool stuff, right? There are infinite use cases for setting up filters and routes in make.com. It makes it super convenient and super customizable too. That's another reason why I absolutely love make.com. So that's routers and that's filters. We were just working with numeric operators, right? You can do text for that matter, right? So if let's just run this once and see what Salt Lake City was again. I think it's like partly cloudy or something like that. Salt Lake City, Utah. I just want to run this module once, okay? So we're gonna right click the weather module, run this module only, because I don't want to run the rest of the scenario. I just want to get the current conditions for Salt Lake City. So let's see, scattered clouds, okay? Let's take this and let's change this filter right here so that the condition is set to description, or let's just do status for that matter. And let's just take clouds, because we know that that's an option for a data point in the weather app. And let's change it to a text operator. Let's say clouds, or let's say the status is equal to clouds, like that. Click OK. We're gonna click save. We're gonna run once, and you'll see that it traveled down both the first and the second route, and not the third route, because now the text operator, or the filter we have set up for if status is equal to clouds, which it is currently in Salt Lake City, then move along down this branch. And what we have is just send me an email. So if we come back here to the email, we can see that it sent me everything. So really cool with filters. Not only do they have text operators, you've got basic operators. Does this data point exist or does it not exist? You got text operators, you've got numeric operators, you've got the date time operators, time operators, and a few others. The list goes on. Now for scheduling, you'll notice that we have this little clock icon on the trigger module. We can go ahead and click that, and this will take us into the schedule setting. How often do we want this scenario to kick on and run? How often do we want the weather channel to grab data and then pass it along, right? Is it once a day? Is it several times a day? Is it once every hour? What is it? We can set all of those intervals in the schedule setting. My habit is not to click the clock icon right here on the trigger module. It's just to come down here to the schedule setting button right next to the run once down here on the bottom row. So it pulls you up to the exact same location. And we've got a ton of room for customization here. We can have it set up at regular intervals. We can have it set up every day, certain days of the week, right? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at noon. We could have it set up Tuesday, Thursday, Friday at noon, right? So every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, this scenario will kick on and run and grab information from the weather app and then push it along. If we want it every day at noon, that's another option. There are advanced settings right here where we can say starting on today, right, August 14th, and ending on, let's say we just want this to run for 2 weeks, right? So we can have this scenario kick on and run every single day at noon just for the next 2 weeks, and that's it. And then it will shut off. You can do specific dates for days of the month, January, February on the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th at 12 o'clock, starting on, and then you can select your date in January, ending on whatever date you want. These are advanced settings. So if we click off for the advanced settings, then it just gives us these options right here. On demand is basically you just open up make.com, come to this scenario, and just click run once. So it's just on demand. You have to manually trigger the automation. At regular intervals, we can schedule it down to the minute, right? I believe if you have the core plan or the free plan, maybe it's just the free plan, but you can only schedule it at 15-minute increments. All of the other plans you can schedule down to the minute. So every single minute you can schedule this scenario to kick on and run. So let's say we want this scenario to run 3 hours, right? Because this field is in minutes, we have to convert 60 minutes times 3 hours, or times 3, right? Because we want 3 hours. So 60 times 3 is 180 minutes. So you would have to set it up that way. And then we want it to run from 8 a.m., change that to a.m., to 8 p.m. And we only want it to run on weekdays. So we're going to deselect Saturday and Sunday. And we're just going to say every single month and then click OK. So now it's going to run. You'll see that it changed every single 3 hours. The scenario is going to kick on with these parameters, right? With these settings from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., Monday through Friday, every single month of the year. This scenario is going to kick on every 3 hours and run. Click OK, click save. Now, nothing is going to happen automatically as you exit out of this scenario and go about your life unless you toggle the scheduling setting on, right? So if it's off, nothing's going to happen. It's pretty straightforward. If it's off, nothing happens. If it's on, now it's going to run on the scheduled settings that you have set up. Once it's on, you can click back out of the scenario and it will stay on for as long as you keep it on until you toggle it off. And that's everything for this video. We went over routers, filters, and scheduling. One more thing that just came to mind, you can have multiple routers. You can basically have infinite routers down the line through your scenario. So you're not just limited to one router and now you can't, build out anymore. We can take this route right here, right? And we can add a router and it splits off again into, it's basically like a tree. It just gets bigger and bigger as you progress through your workflow, right? We can even add a router on a router, and you can do this infinitely. It's awesome. And again, really cool thing, if you end up in this situation for whatever reason, right, where your workflow is just absolutely a mess, click the magic wand and everything aligns. Thanks, guys.